topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Legacy Leavers series on Success Secrets Exposed. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time or Wednesday mornings in Australia on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. The series showcases experts, changemakers, and disruptors leaving a lasting legacy with those sharing their wisdom with the world.
Good evening, good morning, and good day to you all, and welcome to another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Today on our Legacy Leavers, we're going to be talking about a topic, understanding your animals. Now, our guest today is Annie Bourke, who is an international best-selling author and a renowned animal communicator. And Annie has a unique gift. She communicates with animals, both living and in spirit, essentially to convey messages that bring peace and understanding to their human companions, and much, much more. We'll find out more about that shortly. And her legacy is to raise global awareness about the importance of animals, their souls, and their purpose in our lives. So let's unlock and discover more about how to communicate with animals. Please welcome to the show, Annie Bourke.
Thank you, Sally.
Yay.
And hello, everybody who's listening or watching.
Thank you. So excited to have you join us again, and such a great topic with what's going on in the world and the, conscious awakening, etc. So I'm really looking forward to exploring more of this with you. So communication is paramount in, what we do as far as life and living, whether it's with our other human counterparts or with our animal companions. So can you explain what animal communication is and how you discovered your ability to communicate with animals? Tell us the backstory.
Sure. So animals communicate with each other telepathically. So it's not actually a language that we can hear audibly. I call it the language of love. So animals can talk to each other within their own species and between species. And I've discovered it's something that we can do automatically as young children, and then something happens as we grow up and we just lose that ability, but it's something that we can reactivate again. It's very strange doing it for the first time, because for me, I hear their voices in my head. It's not audible in my ear. And it's such a bizarre sensation hearing different voices in your head. And animals all have different voices, just like humans do. So you hear all sorts of tones and accents, some very cultured voices, some very laid-back voices. I can tell when they're smiling. Some of them actually tell me funny stories and make me laugh. So you can hear the humour in their voice, and their personalities really come out with how they're talking and what they're talking about. So they can send verbal messages, which is what I hear, but they can also send visual messages. So they can send images. And so if they want to send you love, they could say it verbally, but they could also send you the images of LOVE, the letters, or they could show you a little video snippet and have lots of hearts floating towards you. It's very clever that they can do that. It's some kind of advanced thought transference technology. I don't understand how they do it, and they haven't explained yet how they do it. So I have to accept that for the moment I don't need to know, even though I want to.
Yes.
And they can also send emotions and feelings. So you can feel in your body what they're feeling in their body. So that's what I understand animal communication is. It's all those different facets of how to get a message through to us. And until we do know how to telepathically communicate, our animals are trying to communicate with us all the time, but they have to rely on their eye language or their body language or different vocalizations, or when they're really desperate to get a message through, changing their behaviour, because they're smart enough to know that we will notice if something has changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I, for as long as I can remember, had always thought animals could understand me when I was talking with them, and I
Mm,
just wished that I could understand what they were trying to say back to me.
mm,
And it was only when I had a little ginger girl cat pass away after a very short illness that I felt that I'd lost the opportunity to get to know her on a deeper level through communication. So
mm,
she's the one who inspired me to look for an animal communication course.
mm.
And on the website of the course that I was looking at was an image of a ginger cat who looked exactly like her.
Right. Yes. Oh, that's given me
So
goosebumps. Yeah.
yeah, same here. So that was my kind of universal sign that, yes, this is the path I'm supposed to take.
Yeah.
And I have spoken to her in spirit since and told her how I felt about losing that opportunity with her. She's
Mm,
got no grudges at all. It was her purpose to guide me to doing this because
mm,
she knew it was my life purpose to do animal communication. So
mm,
she's appeared since in meditations and dreams, and I've had conversations with her. So it's just a beautiful gift that she
mm.
guided me to do this, because now I've been able to help lots of other animals and their humans understand each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do all sorts of work with, I'm going to say pets, so pet companions, but you've also done work with other types of animals as well in different scenarios. And I'm going to use the zoo term there, but I'll let you just sort of flesh out what sort of animals you're actually doing this work with, just to give our audience a bit of an idea of the, sheer scope
Scope,
you're
yes.
doing. Yeah.
So every animal can communicate telepathically, and they can do it from an early age. My lovely red boy, Teeny, who you can see on the banner behind me, I met him online when he was 6 weeks old through a photograph and connected with him to see whether he wanted to come and live with me.
Yeah.
So at 6 weeks, he already understood telepathic communication, and I've since spoken to a puppy who was 5 weeks old, and
Yeah.
she could also communicate. So it's just something that they innately do. So yes, I've spoken to lots of different animals, and communication is a free will choice. So I have to ask for consent to have a conversation, whether it's a domestic animal, whether it's an animal at a zoo or a sanctuary, or whether it's an animal in the wild.
Mm,
And I've had no domestic animals refuse the opportunity to have a conversation and answer their humans' questions, because it also gives them an opportunity to pass on their own personal messages. And they may have been bursting for ages to tell you something and just haven't had the opportunity. I
yeah.
talk to all different types of animals in zoos, and I've only had 2 who didn't want to talk. One was an iguana, and I
Mm,
introduced myself twice in case he couldn't understand my human voice and the accent, and he just didn't want to talk. So I respect that and just moved on to another animal.
yeah.
And the other one was a peacock, and the peacock was obviously very surprised that a human was trying to connect. And he's saying,
Yeah.
"What's going on? This has never happened before. What's going on?" And I could just feel the tension in his voice. And so I just apologized for disturbing him and
Yeah.
moved on. But
Yeah.
apart from that, anything at a zoo, any animal is happy to talk. And,
Yeah.
if they've got issues in their enclosures, I can pass them on to their keepers. If they've got aches and pains, I can pass that information on as well. And then I've
Mm,
connected with animals in the wild. And I actually interviewed a number of representatives from different species for writing my first book, because I
mm,
wanted to talk about their experiences in the wild in their
mm,
voices. So
mm,
once you've mastered doing conversations with domestic animals, you can talk to any animal anywhere.
mm, mm. And I love the depth of the conversation in the way it's actually coming about, because I know if we all would have had, if you've got dogs or cats, you all end up being, in my household, I'll just bring it back to my house, very well trained, in that you sort of know what's being asked or required of you. We always talk about how Honey picked my sister and I when we went to pick from the litter. We sort of decided on one dog who sort of moved away and walked to us, and then Honey actually, as a little puppy, came and sat between both of us. So we feel as though we were picked in that scenario. And she's very much here for the purpose. But yes, I know by the eyes and the licking of the lips. So these aren't the level and the depth that you're talking about. But I know we've got those. They're just cues for me. And sometimes I sort of get the, glare, you're not quite getting this, come on board, or the tap of you've been on the computer for too long, it's time to go, and all those sorts of things. So I'm imagining that lots of people have had those sort of very, very normal experiences. But one of the things that I find incredibly fascinating as it relates to you is the work that you do with humans when their beloved companion for many, many years has passed, and how that brings so much, I'm going to use the word peace and comfort to those people. So can you explain a little bit about that work that you do with the human side of what's happened
Yes.
from a grief perspective?
Yes. And it really doesn't matter what age our animal is when they pass away, it still leaves a huge hole in our heart, which is how a lot of people describe it. And they feel as though their heart has just shattered. How can they keep going on? How will they ever have that love and companionship that they've experienced with that animal again? So it is such a devastating time. And yes, being able to connect with the soul of their animal in spirit means that they can get questions answered. So why did my animal pass away? Sometimes people don't have a diagnosis, and particularly when it's a young animal, it's a huge shock when they pass away, and you want to know, or was it their time? A lot of people feel some kind of guilt or remorse or regret if they've helped their animal to transition. Were they doing the right thing? Was it their time to pass? Should they have picked up earlier that something was wrong with them? Was there some other medical management option that they could have looked at to help support their animal live a longer, high-quality life? So all of those kind of questions can plague people for years.
Yeah, and that road going around in your head.
Carrying all that negative energy, which just, affects you psychologically and emotionally. And our animals have taught me that when they do pass away, although the physical body is no longer with us, the soul endures. And so I can have a conversation with an animal. It doesn't matter how long ago they passed. I've had a conversation with a dog who passed over more than 20 years ago. And to me, it's like having a conversation with you now, just the clarity of the conversation. You have a two-way conversation. It's just a soul who's existing in the spiritual plane. We're a soul who's existing in a human body on the physical plane, but we can always connect with them. And I think that gives a lot of bereaved animal parents peace as well, to know that although they're no longer with them physically, they're not truly separated, because we can always connect in with them. And yes, sometimes our animals on the other side do help orchestrate a new animal coming to us, because they know how healing that will be for us. They also know we're not being disrespectful, we're not replacing them, and they know that that new animal will be fortunate to have the love and care that they received while they were a member of your family. So it's just wonderful that they are looking after you from the other side and can do that. As well as answering questions about what happened with them, they can also come back and visit us on an energetic level. And so I've had a number of people tell me that they've seen their animal running up and down the corridor, and they think they're going crazy, or it's wishful thinking, or whatever's going on, sleep deprived, emotionally exhausted. And our animals don't actually have a physical body anymore. But somehow, and again, they haven't explained this, they can put on a temporary physical body so that we can recognise them, or we can hear them when they come back. And one of my girl cats used to meow very loudly when she came back for visits, and I'd know that she was there. I've had people feeling their animals, jumping on the bed, coming up and snuggling against them, even coming up and patting them on the face. So there's all sorts of things they can do to let us know that they're back with us. It's comforting for us to know that their soul has transitioned safely and they can come back for a visit, but it's also good for our animals because they get to come back and be with us and their other animal family members.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say to me, my cat's just staring at the wall intently and I can't see a thing, what's going on? And because they're so sensitive to frequencies, they will know when your animal in spirit is visiting. And that's part of that process. And then the most incredible thing that animals have taught me is that they can reincarnate. And I knew nothing about this till one of my cats let me experience it. And she wasn't very old and she had no health issues and she just suddenly passed away one morning. So it was a huge shock. But I did ask her when she was able to talk to me what she'd done that for. And she said, oh, I needed a new body, in a tone like that. And I'm thinking, what? And she told me to stop being so sentimental and that she was coming back. And like she'd been one of my original animal communication teachers and she was so accurate with the information she was teaching me. I just had to believe that she was telling me the truth, even though it just sounded so bizarre. And she told me what she was going to look like and she came back. And so now I know that she did that so that I would personally experience it, so that I'd be able to tell people about it. I'd be able to write about it. But now it means I've been able to help lots of animal parents grieving their loss, because if it's an animal's destiny to come back, they can tell me. And they can tell me what species they're going to be, what breed, what colour, what gender, even down to a time frame of when they'll be available, or even a specific rescue agency where their parents can find them. And that has just been unbelievable in helping support people. It profoundly changes the grief process when you know your animal is coming back, because so many people say, just tell them how much I love them and how much I'd give to hug them one more time. And then you put your animal back again for another lifetime of love. And I just describe it as a surreal and euphoric and blissful experience when you get to see your animal in their new body and they're back with you again. And it's an aspect of their soul who comes back. So sometimes they look very different, particularly if they're a different species, of course. And sometimes they look very similar. And often they will have very similar behaviours. So you'll recognise something about them, even if they look very different. They have to adjust to being in a new body, as well as you and everyone else in the house having to adjust to them in a new body. But it seems to be about 48 hours and everybody's recognised who everyone is. Because when they come back, they're in a new body. They look different, they smell different, and animals rely very heavily on scent. And they'll have a different voice. So if they're used to hearing their voice from last time, suddenly here's this animal that might have been their fur sister who's now come back as their fur brother in a body with a male voice. So they have to have time to recognise them on a soul level. But then it's as though they never left. It is just really an unusual experience having them coming back. And that's a lot of people describe their animal as their soul dog or their heart dog. And so subconsciously they're using the language, recognising that there is a bond between them, but consciously they're not aware of what that is. And sometimes it is these animals that we've had lifetimes, whether it's our childhood pet who's come back to us or whether it's an animal that we've known their soul in a past life. And that's where, to me, it gets very intriguing and fascinating, because some of our animals have actually had human lifetimes before with us, and some of them have had animal lifetimes. And for people listening to this, you may never have heard about this, but our animals are so smart. They can tell me about their past lives, so they can explain why you feel such a strong connection to them. And then it makes more sense. So I just love having these conversations and just unraveling the mysteries, because when the human understands more about why their animal is with them, what's their purpose, why do they keep coming back to be with them, it just changes the dynamics of the relationship. And it's, you're just seeing each other through new eyes. And our animals love us knowing whose soul is in them. And sometimes they've been very vocal because they've been trying to tell us who they are and we just haven't got the message. So, it really is such a gift for bereaved animal parents to have that second lifetime with their animal, or it might be their fourth lifetime or their 10th lifetime, depending on how many times the souls have connected. But it is
and the
just,
backstory.
it's just a very rewarding thing to do, to let someone know that their animal's coming back and then see the photos when they're reunited again. It is just beautiful.
Would be when you were talking about that and the experience that somebody would have going through that, having said, at the beginning there was they've got a hole in their heart. You could actually feel that heart hole was filling back up again. And then when they have that deeper understanding and the connection of let's call it the backstory of why they're there and all the intricacies around that, as you said, that would it would actually be really, that connection would really, really deepen. And we've just actually been asked a question: how many times can an animal actually reincarnate? What's been your experience of that?
I've just saw that. I can answer that in a way by telling you about one of my original animal communicator teacher cats, who was a male. He actually showed me images of us working at the Great Pyramid in Egypt over 2,000 years ago. And he's shared with me that he's had human lifetimes with me and he's also had animal lifetimes with me. And I haven't looked back further than that to see how far back our soul connection actually goes. But it's interesting because when I first met him as a kitten, I knew he was really special, but I had no idea why. And this was before I started animal communication. So I could just sense energetically that he was the one who was meant to be with me. And now we're being asked, can they come back as a human? I can do the reverse answer to that question. I've spoken with a lot of people where we've worked out it's actually a human soul aspect who's in their animal. So it may have been a soul who's had a human lifetime before, and it may be a soul who's had an animal lifetime before, or both. So I've got a number of clients where it's their grandparent who's in soul, who's in their animal, or a parent's soul, or even a child who passed away prematurely and has come back because that's an opportunity to get back with the family again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just fascinating. So I'd love to, we've talked a lot about, the connection as it relates to soul. So let's bring the communication forward now, if that's the right term. I'd love to find out for the pet owners that have got pets now that they know that they've got this special bond with, how can they start the process of deepening that relationship with their animal and starting to understand that the telepathic communication to sort of accelerate their communication effectively?
Yeah, great question. The most important thing you can do with your animal is to have verbal conversations with them, because they actually understand every word that you say. And a lot of people are surprised to hear that. And I've had people say, it's a dog. It knows no and walk, and that's about it. Well, I'm here to tell you that they have very extensive vocabularies. In my mentorship program, where I work with animal parents and their animals to master telepathic communication, they come out with the most amazing words and phrases. And it's interesting because sometimes they're not words that I'm familiar with. But when I look them up in the dictionary, they're there. And so some of these animals have had lifetimes hundreds of years ago as humans, and they're familiar with the language that was used in those times. And so they're not words we use commonly now, but they're words that they're familiar with. So that's really fascinating as well. But it's having that conversation. They just love you, knowing that they understand everything you say. And then you can just have a running conversation through the day. That's the first thing you need to do. You can also spend time with them, just watching their behaviours and trying to work out what their body language might mean, or what their eye language might mean, or what their vocalizations mean. My cat, who's in the background here, last year started making a lot of little funny vocalization noises that I'd never heard him make before. So it was very intriguing, and he was very agitated. So I asked him what was happening, and he told me about the Schumann resonance. and I'd never read anything about that before, but it's the vibrational frequency that Earth vibrates at, and it's under 10 hertz. But for some reason, with the solar flares and lots of other energetic things happening, it's been spiking. And every time it spikes, he's so sensitive that he can tell that, and it upsets him. So now we know we can prepare for that, and I do some energetic things to help him. So it's picking up. You know, when you spend a lot of time with your animal, you can start to associate different things. Like I knew I had to go and fill up the Bicky bowl before we started this interview, because otherwise I would get scrabble at the door from someone saying that the Bicky bowl is empty. Please come and fill it straight away.
Yes.
So you just get used to
she pushes hers around the kitchen. She pushes it around. I've got a metal one. She pushes it around the kitchen. And those sorts of things. And I love her to bits, because if I'm stressed or huffing and puffing, or I'm, you know, trying to get something done and I'm intense, I'll get the little nudge, which means, you know, just take another deep breath, and then I'll get, you know, she'll come back again. She'll just give me another nudge, and it's just those little caring nudges, which are just beautiful. But they're
just prompting us.
Yeah.
So that's how I'd start. Now, I do have a number of resources for people. I'd have a free guide about animal communication that people can download from my website. I also offer free online masterclasses every month for animal parents, and I talk about all sorts of different topics, including animal communication, and I talk about animal bereavement and coping with grief, healing, lots of different topics around that. So listeners are welcome to come and join in on those sessions as well.
Yeah,
I do have a podcast called What Animals Tell Me, so people can listen to that and get some more information. I've also got my books, which can help activate people's telepathic communication. I've had people read my books and say, I can hear my dog. I can hear my dog's voice. I had one lady in the UK said, I could hear the dogs walking along the footpath. What they were talking about, like, it's, hello, honey, you've come to join us.
She never comes in. She knows when the podcast is on and the door is shut, but someone's just busted in to come and say hi to everybody. Haven't you? Yes, thank you. Say hi.
We get lots of animals coming to the masterclasses as well, because they understand what I'm saying, but they're also intrigued to find out what their humans are learning. So it's lovely having the little cameo experiences. Yep.
Beautiful.
And I have a YouTube channel where I'm sharing lots of the conversations I've had with animals. In particular, I have a soulful conversation series where I talk about a lot of the mediumship conversations I've had and helping families move from heartbreak to happiness with the reincarnation of their animal's soul. So watching those will really help people understand a lot more. And I've also started a series called Ask Annie, because people are asking such fascinating questions that I'm actually now doing little short videos just to answer them based on what the animals have taught me. So they're all kind of practical ways that people can get started. I do offer an Animal Communication Mentorship Program, and that's a 3-month program where I work on one-on-one with the animal parent and 2 animals, either theirs or mine. And we work on all the different facets of communication that I spoke about earlier. So doing the verbal questions and answers, visual, and sending emotions and feelings. And we also do conversations with animals in spirit during the program as well. So it is interactive. Like, we have the mentorship sessions and I prep all the animals beforehand so they know what we're going to ask them. So they've got time to think about how they want to answer the question, because they're so intelligent. They're not just seeing this as an academic exercise to help mum learn how to speak animal. They can choose answers that actually help us on our spiritual path.
Move forward,
So they're aware that we're here with soul lessons to learn and a purpose, just as they have. They're also aware that we need to expand our consciousness. So they'll be doing things that they can to help. They can also take it to their advantage, because one of the cats that I was working with a mum loves roast chicken. So now that he knows that mum can communicate, he just sends her images of chickens when he's hungry. So, you know, their personalities are just wonderful when they can really shine out like that through the communication.
Beautiful. Yeah. Just had another question come up, and then I just want to. I've got a question for you as well. Do souls remember the past lives when they come back? And I think we actually did talk about that, and you said that was in actual fact the case.
Yeah, and to me, it's really interesting because as humans, we seem to go through this, they call it the veil of amnesia when we
Yeah.
come to Earth for a new lifetime, and we
Yeah.
don't recall anything about our past or remember why we've come back again. But animals know. So they
Yeah.
can tell me. I had an animal recently saying that they had a lifetime in 1615 with their human,
Wow.
1700s, 1800s, all of the details. They can tell me where they were, what their name was.
Yeah.
One animal told me that they were a human and they had 5 siblings.
Mm.
So the detail that they can recall
Hence
is
the
just
language, different
fascinating.
languages as well that
Yes.
they speak to you in as well. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, and that helps explain the bonds then, because you might feel an incredible bond with honey. She might
Yeah.
have been your daughter in a past life, or she might have been your sister in a past life. There's all
Yeah.
sorts of things that ways that you can have known each other.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
I understand now from having had all of these conversations that we must have some really long soul contract with them, that we just keep
Mm.
reincarnating through lifetimes and supporting each other. Like my
Mm.
cat, who's been with me on and off for 2,000 years. That's just
Mm.
amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's
It is
reincarnated again
fascinating.
in
Yeah.
this lifetime. So they just keep
Yeah.
coming back, which is just beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to ask now, and you sort of very briefly touched on it, and we are not quite at the end of the show, but we're getting there. So this will be another juicy part of the show. You talked about the increasing the consciousness of humans. I'm going to put it that way. And your most recent book is along the vein and the title of that. So I'd love you to explain how and why that book and that topic came about as it relates to elevating, I'm going to use the word elevating humanity. I'll let you explain it in the way that you know it's meant to be delivered.
Okay, thank you. So, just letting your listeners know, I wrote my first book, The Bridge to Animal Consciousness, and this is part of my life purpose, as you said in the introduction, that I want to raise awareness about the importance of animals so that people know they have souls and there is a purpose for them being with us. I'm actually writing a trilogy. So that was
Mm,
book 1. And so book 2 I published last year, called Crossing the Bridge to Animal
great.
Consciousness,
Yeah.
Animal Soulology. And this one, I wanted to go into a lot more depth about what happens when we have to say goodbye to an animal. So
Mm,
particularly written to support people who have had to say goodbye to an animal. But my cats actually helped me write the book because
mm,
they know what topics I needed to write about to help raise consciousness. And they actually shared some information for me to write about in the book that I'd never heard of
good.
before. So
Yeah.
they're still teaching me, but
Yeah.
through what's written in here, it can help activate people and expand consciousness. And that's what they actually told me, that they can actually help us accelerate our consciousness expansion because they
Mm,
know so much. Some of these are very wise souls, or evolved souls. They may have had multiple lifetimes. They've learned a lot,
mm,
and they
and
particularly
remember.
know how to teach us so that they're not overwhelming us with too much information in one go. So,
Yes.
like me with learning about the reincarnation, I had to physically experience what that was like. And now I've been able to find out more about it. So they
Yes.
teach you a little bit. You have to absorb it and process it and integrate it. And
Yeah.
then you're ready to have the next bit of information sent to you. So
Yeah.
in this book, it's going more in depth into the soul journeys and the purpose of why our animals are with us,
Yeah.
what happens when they pass over, what
Yeah.
happens for them when they come back, because they have to adjust to coming back
Mm,
as well as us adjusting to having them back again.
mm,
I've got some very entertaining stories about animals that have come back for energetic visits that their parents weren't expecting, but
mm,
then lots of real life stories about the reincarnation journeys for
mm.
animals and how they've come back to their families. And the stories are just incredible. Like a couple of them, the parents had to fly halfway across America to get their animal back again in their
New
new
version.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, it's part of what you do. You just want to be connected back with your animal, and they just showed them so many similar behaviours to last time. They knew beyond a doubt It was their animal's soul back again in the new body, plus with all the descriptions they'd given us of how to find them and what they were going to look like. And so I really wrote this book to give people hope, to know that once their animal has passed away, that is not the end of your relationship with them. That heart bond continues. And if it's their destiny to come back, they can come back. And you can get a lot of peace just understanding more what happens with our animals on the other side. Unfortunately, a lot of our animals are very unwell when they pass over, but to know they actually go through a healing process on the other side, and then they just run around like young kittens or young puppies and, you know, they're absolutely fine. That gives people a lot of peace as well. So it's really about giving people peace and hope, as well as having the activations in there to help them on a spiritual level. And that's really what I've discovered more and more with the conversations now. It's not just, you know, would you like a new ball or a new outfit to wear? Really going into the deeper spiritual side. You know, why are you with us? What is your purpose? Are you here to help me with my soul lessons? You know, what information can you give me? What do you need to tell me? What guidance do you have for me? And, you know, people think you're weird asking your dog what guidance they have for you. But because they're so aware, they know. And what they come out with is just so profound. And it's really interesting because a lot of people want to know, is their animal happy? And like to me, that's a yes-no question. But if I ask, what can mum do to make you happier? That's an open question, and you get so much more scope. But our animals, again, are so intelligent and they're so intuitive about us. They're not just going to say more walks, more treats, more playtime. They will know if there's something happening for you, that it's affecting you, and whatever affects you affects them. So if they know that you're too stressed, that you need to have time out, you need to go and do some relaxation or meditation or whatever it is, that will come out as part of that answer. Because when you're functioning at a more healthier level, they will be happier. They're so astute, and that's the information. And they're not being critical. They're not judging us. They just know if there's something wrong, that they need to point it out to you, because a lot of people aren't aware that their animals are actually observing them and know so well what's going on. I had one mum to tell me, my cat knows me better than I do. Like she was totally in awe of what the cat had picked up about her. And so it's understanding that they're really here to help us, and there's a lot of wisdom that they can share with us, and we can help each other on this lifetime together.
Beautiful. I'm going to ask you, as it relates to the most recent book, and I'm going to go to the chapters, so your index page. From your perspective, what was the most unexpected lesson that you were gifted to pop in the book? What was the chapter that you were most surprised about that was shared with you to write? It's a totally weird, random question, I know, but
no, it's a great question, because my cat who came back, Nisha, wrote the introduction. She dictated to me what she wanted, and then my cat Tierney, who's on the cover of the first book, he actually dictated the last chapter. And to me, that's incredible, because I just wrote down exactly what he was telling me. And it really is profound, but he's so aware of the power of words and being able to use that to help people and to help people change. And so what did he say? So I'll just read you two little paragraphs. This is a critical concept for you. Living life guided by a new paradigm whereby you understand reality with a deeper, more encompassing and enlightened focus exponentially affects and enables your consciousness expansion. Now, that's word for word what he told me. That is so profound. And that's what they're here to do. They help with our consciousness expansion. And it is totally changing our understanding of reality. Like I've been doing this for over 12 years now, and it's totally changed my understanding of reality, because I've learnt so much from the animals. And then the next paragraph, another key learning that animals want you to recognise is your connection with source or God, or whatever term you want to call it. Nature and each other. Everything living consists of energy and vibrational frequency, and everything living is connected. There is a living consciousness of interconnectedness, even though you don't understand that you can consciously connect. So many people don't understand yet that you can communicate with animals and have profound conversations that change your lives.
Mm, mm, mm.
So it is just very potent what they can tell us and how much it can move us and change us, evolve us.
Absolutely. And I'm just remembering a story that a friend shared at a recent dinner that I was at. It was a gala dinner. It was actually a new person I'd met. And he was talking about how, like lots of people, they got their COVID dog. Lots of people got puppies and animals in that, and they did the normal. It's going to stay in its crate. It's going to stay in the crate in the bedroom. It's going to stay at the bottom of the bed. Oh dear God, it's on my pillow now. That process,
The
that
progression. Yes.
that's the progression. But what the reason I mentioned that was, he said he said I wasn't a dog person, but you can't imagine how much joy the dog has brought me. So that's this on this really superficial level. It's not to the depth that we're now talking from a communication. So I can only imagine if you've got that much joy just from that level of bringing an animal into your life to the level of joy that you can experience when you get into this deeper communication, this deeper connectivity, and these joining of purposes to create that greater good and leave and find your own legacy. I find to be quite fascinating, which was why I wanted to sort of talk about the depth of this and how animals can teach us. And I think lots of people share the story of success and wisdom, and how you need to live your life through the examples of nature. Nature nurtures and supports everything around it. Nature collaborates, which is for the greater good of everybody. Where it's not always in competition. There'll be ebbs and flows of the way things will work together, but it is that very connected and for the greater good of everybody. But to now have that conversation at the level of the greater good for everybody through the animals and their perspective, but also all of their ancient wisdom that they've brought forward with them, opening that, cracking the shell of cracking it open a little bit for us to have those experiences, to bring different messages and bring that connectivity and healing back to humanity, whether that's one pet to one animal, one animal to one human at a time, or however that goes. That I find absolutely extraordinary. And I can only imagine how much your heart fills up with all of the different stories that you get to hear and the connections and all those sorts of things. So yeah, that's just I'm reeling with excitement, but my mind's boggled at the same time, if that makes sense.
I think it's just overwhelming when you've had exposure to it, to hear some of the things that I just take for granted now, because it's my everyday reality and experience. And I know, and that's what I say when I do my masterclasses, that, some of the concepts you're going to hear you may never heard of before. Please listen with an open heart and an open mind. This is information that the animals have shared with me, and I just feel it's my duty to share it with the world. And by doing that, it is gradually raising consciousness, which is what I'm here to do.
As part of your legacy. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So one of in the very last thing I'd love to for you to share with the audience, and we've talked about your books, we've talked about your podcast and your YouTube channel. Where is the best place for somebody to start and build that connection with you? What would you suggest first?
Look, I think coming to a masterclass, it just gives exposure to me and how I work, and lots of practical stories and things that people can do. And then they can work out whether they resonate with me or not. And I know listening to some of the stories, it just sounds so unreal, but it's just what I've experienced. And animals are truthful and they're pure, and they just say things how they are, and they're here to help us learn. So I think the masterclass is the easiest way, and I advertise them on social media, on LinkedIn, YouTube and Instagram. Once people have connected with me, I do have an email newsletter, and I publicise all my events and podcast interviews and things there, so people can connect with me like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to say, I've had Annie on the show a couple of times, and we've had a couple of deep conversations. Just some of the stories that I think it was a polar bear that you told me about at the zoo, the reincarnation of the dog, the little Scotty dog, and we've had lots of different conversations. So you'll be able to hear and experience some of those conversations by diving into lots of Annie's conversations, and you get a real understanding of the depth and the conversations Annie's been having, but more importantly, how and why animals are here to teach us, and what the opportunity is when we've got that open heart and that open mind. So very, very cool. Any closing thoughts from you? Otherwise, I've got another quick question for you.
Look, the main thing is just to talk with your animals every day and to tell them that you love them and you're grateful that they're with you. They know that you love them, but hearing you say it, love and gratitude are very high frequency words, and our animals are very sensitive to frequency. We never know how long our animal is going to be with us for, and so we can't take them for granted. So it's making sure that they do know that we love them and we are grateful, even though they might drive us crazy sometimes. We do love them, and it's important that they know that, and they love us having verbal conversations, knowing that we understand. And particularly if you're going out somewhere and your animal may have separation anxiety, you can just let them know where you're going, what you're doing, when you'll be back. They understand the concept of time, and it just really reduces the stress because they know where you're going, and they've also heard you say you're coming back. So particularly for rescue animals who may have experienced abandonment before, knowing that you're coming back really makes a difference for them. And it's just so easy to say, I'm going out for 2 hours to buy dog food and dog treats, and then I'll be home. And then they know what's going on. I've had one of my cats say to me, I just want to be involved. Like, she just wants to know what I'm doing. So they just love hearing what's going on.
Yeah, very much so.
Changes. And even just doing that once, I've had people say, I listened to your masterclass. I went and told my dog I loved them. They looked at me differently. It is so powerful. Even just one conversation can change things between you. And like when I have a conversation with an animal on behalf of their human, that changes their relationship as well. They can show more affection, more attention. It's just phenomenal. They're so grateful that the human arranged the conversation and wanted to know the answers to their questions. So it's just talking to them that's so important.
You made me giggle because I remember I do talk to Honey, and I always say to Rory, because my son still comes 1 week on, 1 week off, even though he's nearly 21, which is just so cute. So I always say that, Honey's super excited when Rory comes home because she's sick of me following her around talking to her, and she just, like, I've had enough of Mum, she's just been talking way too much. So we've got this standing joke. But I know, so I do always tell her what I'm doing, because generally she'll come with me wherever I'm going. But if she can't, I will tell her. But I remember coming home a few weeks ago. It was actually the dinner party I was at. I said I'd be home at a certain time, and I wasn't. I was actually like considerably late. And I walked in the door, and Honey's got her face on the arm of the chair, just giving me a grumpy look, and it was clearly, where have you been? It's late. And I absolutely had to apologise, and I got the, okay, and then it was all okay, because I was much later than what was previously anticipated.
And that's the advantage with telepathic communication, that when you're leaving somewhere, you can just tune into your animals and say, I'm just leaving now, I'll be home in an hour. And then that, again, alleviates the stress because they know what's going on. And I do that, like if I've gone away for a holiday somewhere, I can tune into them every day and chat to them, and I know they're okay, they know I'm okay, and that relieves stress and worry as well. So there's just so many advantages of being able to communicate with your animals, so many things you can find out about them. It just really does change their world and yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've just got going across the bottom of the screen Annie's website, which is cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. Did I catch that? Yes, I did. So please reach out to Annie. You will absolutely find her on LinkedIn and Instagram and on YouTube. There's lots of fascinating stories. It's a real opportunity for all of us to learn more and become more connected. And thank you, Annie, for sharing so much wisdom with us and so many great insights around what animals are here to teach us. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Sally. And I just love having the opportunity to leave a legacy and to change the world by making a difference for animals.
Yeah, and you're definitely doing that for both the animals and the humans, of bringing all this wisdom, especially with your trilogy series around the stories and the communication aspects and what you do with the masterclasses. So again, thank you very, very, very much. Great opportunity for us all to learn, a great opportunity for us to learn about the legacy that Annie is leaving and the legacy that it can leave for us as it relates to communication and understanding of the connection that we do have with those special companions that are within our lives. So again, thank you very, very much, Annie. A great episode. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Till then, thank you very much.
Remember, if you want to be sought after and sold out, as well as being known as the obvious expert in your industry, you need to speak with Sally, our host of Success Secrets Exposed. Sally is the founder of Monetize Your Content, a done-for-you content marketing agency that helps you be easy to buy. See you next week on another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time or Wednesday mornings in Australia on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV.